Smell of weed in the second quarter. It surprised the heck out of me. Like every game, I'm like, dang, like it seems like it's like a light up quarter. You know what I'm saying? Like, so is this the quarter that y'all chose? Like, I'm serious. It's a TV timeout. It never fails, and I'm like, wow, what's going on? Because I've never been high a day in my life, so that's kind of new to me.
Okay, that of course is Colorado coach Deion Sanders talking about smelling weed as college football season has returned to Boulder, Colorado, and elsewhere. And guys, that's not all. We've also had reports of the smell at the U.S. Open. Listen.
I'm not a big fan of the smell of weed when you walk around. No, but seriously, it's not even. I'm not even joking here because it's every corner, every street. You smell it by almost anywhere you go. So
That's Casper Ruud, one of the best tennis players on the planet. And now we are officially mainstream, at least with the smell of marijuana. Welcome into A Better Buzz, Dave Briggs, Lee Gall, and Ben Larson, the man that I call the OG of THC drinks. He's kind of the godfather, I think, Lee. At least to me, he is.
Oh,
He knows more than anybody in this category, and he makes more of these drinks than anybody in the category.
I share the same sentiments, Dave. Big fan of Ben. Thank you so much for being here today. And I think everything you said, Dave, is true. That you're as OG and as they come, and truly a nucleus to the success that we're seeing, all around the country.
And then we got a lot to talk about, but I have to get your thoughts on those two sound bites because Deion Sanders, that's in Colorado where you can't have THC drinks, even though marijuana is everywhere. And it's also in New York, the US Open, where marijuana is everywhere and you can't have THC drinks. So I thought those two examples weren't just pertinent because they were in the last couple of days, but two states that just can't get with the program. Why is that?
I mean, look, it's the first off, thank you for the very kind intro. You guys making me blush here on a Friday afternoon. So thank you. It's been quite the journey. I remember when I entered this space and I met the OGs, and one of them I remember the first time. Shout out to Luna Stower, called me an OG, and it was like the greatest day of my cannabis journey. Was to be anointed by a fellow OG to that level, but. No, look, I mean, this was the entire motivation behind creating the beverage category. Was we knew the stigma that existed not just in weed broadly, but the smell, right? Like it's just baked into people's minds that is bad, and so we needed to overcome that. That's why in the regulated space, edibles and beverages and just non-smokable consumables have been the fastest growing category for years now. And so we knew this was the pathway. We knew that beverages especially were going to be the way that we normalized and legalized cannabis because it removed the smell. It was more discreet and more social.
Exactly. Thank you so much for putting that in context. And for those that don't know what Vertosa does as we dive into this conversation, please tell our viewers exactly what role you play in this process, which we all support so much.
Sure. Very simply, we create the little magic ingredients that create experiences in these THC products. So we say THC broadly, that's one cannabinoid, but there's a whole host of different cannabinoids that you can put into these products. And there's different supply chains. And that's the complicated side of what we do. We don't like to talk about it a whole lot publicly, but whether you're in regulated cannabis in California or New York or national hemp or Canada, like these are all disparate supply chains. And the promise that we bring to our brands is that no matter where you're at, no matter where you want to sell, you can get the same active ingredients so that you can create the same product. Because when you consume a Coca-Cola in one region or the other, you don't expect it to be different. And that's the promise that we bring to the brands that we work with. And so we work probably with about 200 companies across North America at this time. We do, like I said, work in the regulated channels as well as kind of this burgeoning national low dose hemp beverage movement. We also do fast acting ingredients because it's a very similar technology for gummies and other edible form factors.
That's awesome. Thanks, Ben. So a lot of our consumer group is, or a lot of our viewers are consumers. And so if you could somehow in a whatever, magic you work, explain the nano emulsification process so that
Sure.
so that consumers that are going to the store and picking this up and drinking this for the first time, understand that it's not going to taste like weed and it actually tastes good, and B, how it gets into the format that it does while still creating an effect.
Well, look, I'll start by saying it very well could taste like weed if you wanted it to, hopefully, right? Like if you're doing things the right way, you could actually make it taste like weed. And some people like that and they build a flavor profile around it. It's a more nuanced product. It gets into the entourage effect. But before I get into all the deep science there, back to your question. Look, I mean, when you take the oil extracts from the plant, you have a very viscous hydrophobic oil. When you mix oil and water, generally those things don't mix. And that's where emulsions come in. We all consume emulsions. If you like ice cream or salad dressings, like those are emulsions. Nano emulsions are basically the same thing. You're just using a mechanical process to achieve a stable solution and smaller droplet size. And so it creates a new equilibrium where it can indefinitely, theoretically, stay in suspension. And it just takes a very hard science to do it very precisely at scale, consistently. And so the best way I tell people to think about it is the nanoemulsion itself is a vehicle. So we take the plant extracts, we put it in the vehicle, and then we deliver it through a beverage. And so when we get into formulations, and I think, Lee, you wanted to talk about this a little bit, like we can put different cannabinoids, terpenes, full plant extracts, other active ingredients, and make sure that you're getting to consume it in a very familiar format and that it's a consistent experience no matter if you're drinking at the very beginning or the end or 6 months from now. The idea is that you get the same experience that you intend.
Awesome.
But all 5 milligram beverages are not created equal, as Lee was leading into, and that's what I can't quite figure out. I mean, I've had 2 milligram drinks that hit me better than some 10 milligram drinks. So you mentioned that you have a very consistent baseline. Why do we not find that with most THC drinks across the category?
Ooh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I don't know if you intend it to be, but there's many different things that can lead to inconsistencies. And so in the vehicle itself, you can have variability in the experience that delivers for 2 reasons. One, what's in it. So the different cannabinoids. Mm-hmm. So if you just put THC into something, that will have one effect. If you throw another cannabinoid in there, say CBC, there might be a potentiating effect between those 2 ingredients that lead to a more amplified experience, so to speak, right? And so this is the classic entourage effect, the very simple building blocks of it as you get into 10, 20, 30 compounds that you might get in a full spectrum extract. So that's one aspect. And so how does those ingredients interact with the other ingredients that are in the flavor profile? Is it amplifying the effect? Is there mango juice or lemon juice in there that could potentially influence the effect? Or is it stable? Like, is the potency that you infuse that product with stable over time? It could degrade because of the other ingredients in the product. It could degrade because you have oxygen interacting with the formula itself. And the reason oxygen is important is because THC is not an inert compound. THC naturally degrades when it oxidizes over time. And so to have a stable product, you need to stabilize that system and make sure that it's not oxidizing. So that's one aspect. And then the last one that our industry talks a lot about.
I really asked for it, didn't I?
Yeah. One more, and then I'll let it go, even though there's more, is the packaging. And there's a lot of science that degradation we've gotten into around degradation. All this to say, I could answer this with one simple answer. Maybe I should have started that in the beginning, but I'm going to catch some fire for this. It's regulations or lack thereof. If we had very clear, hopefully not overburdensome, consumer regulations around these products, then it would force that level of science that I just kind of rambled through to be applied to every single product that hits the shelves. But that's just currently not the state of the practice right now. And so that's why you're getting more variability from product to product.
Yeah, I would love to share with both of you guys something that happened to me in just the last 2 nights. So 2 nights ago, I tried a new brand. Someone had sent me some samples, tons of cannabinoids. It had CBN, CBG, CBD. It was beautiful composition, and I rolled the can per the instructions because it was a coconut water, and I had started with 4 milligrams, even though it had 8. And I ended up drinking the whole 8 milligrams because of all the cannabinoids. Beautiful experience, like top notch. Next night, I have another new brand, never tried it before, and it's a 10 milligram can. I cut it to 5, and I'm sipping on it. I'm like, I don't feel anything. And so I keep drinking, thinking, well, maybe I have a higher tolerance, or this is a lower potency, whatever. I wait longer than I'm accustomed to, and then I just get smacked in the face.
Oh no.
And
Oh no.
and this was, thank God, only 5 milligrams because I cut the can. But suddenly I was having paranoia, and on just 5 milligrams. And so you take these two experiences one night versus the next, and I understand that the cannabinoids definitely having an impact on that one brand, but this other brand, and again, I don't want to name names because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but
Sure.
I was not accustomed to getting hit that hard with just 5 milligrams of THC. And it took forever for it to kick in. What changes the onset time?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, and what you're describing is the edible experience, right? This is why
Exactly.
people have been so excited about the beverage experience, because it was supposed to combat that. And so what could cause that? An unstable emulsion, essentially. If you have an unstable emulsion, the droplets will actually naturally merge over time because they lack integrity into their individual droplets. And so as those oil droplets start to merge, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And pretty soon they start to replicate what a natural oil droplet is. And that's what you find in your edibles. When you make a gummy, for instance, you homogenize oil extract into the gummy solution, and then that's what you consume. And so that's what it sounds like it starts merging into. There are certain emulsion systems where you just might have really large droplet sizes, and that naturally causes a longer onset, right? I've heard of people using droplet sizes that are like 1,000 nanometers, which a typical, nano emulsion, so to speak, can range anywhere from 20 nanometers up to about 500 nanometers. Most of our formulas land in the 250 realm. But yeah, we're getting very sciencey. I don't know if that was the intent.
I want to stop being so sciencey if we can, please. And please tell me, Ben, how would you characterize the growth of this industry, in particular in recent months? Any numbers you've heard, anything that really puts it in perspective, how fast this entire category is growing?
Yeah, I mean, simply put, and I speak to a lot of retail owners and distributors, names you would very much recognize, and pretty much unanimously they say that this is the fastest and most exciting growth category that they've ever seen. Ever seen. And so, like, one of the more popular ones people like to talk about are seltzers. Seltzers, I think, really started to come on the map around 2010 and kind of peaked in 2020. So that was a 10-year on-ramp.
Yeah.
And right now we are 2 years in, and you're hearing stories from retailers like John Halper out of Top 10 Liquors in Minnesota, where he says THC products are now 15% of his alcohol sales in a liquor store and taking up 3% of the square footage in the market. And so it's like, that's insane. And it's in 2 years. Yeah. That's 2 years for him. And we haven't even seen the impact yet because this isn't available everywhere. So, like, the growth is going to be insane over the next couple of years because people are starting to hear, big names are coming in, and the dominoes are just going to start falling at breakneck speed.
Do you have a sense of the size of the overall industry right now and where you think it'll be in 2030?
Roughly $1 billion. I would say that we're probably going to approach across across hemp and cannabis, right? And so, like I said, we work across both. So, it's probably spread between the two.
Okay.
Maybe that's a little high. Where it could be by 2030, 50 billion.
Wow.
It's like I had a all hands meeting with my team today, and we've been growing 2x year over year, and it's been a big year for us. And every time you 2x, like the absolute growth like is massive, right? And to be able to serve that, your systems change, your people change, like things just change. And I said, when this starts, because we haven't even started yet. Like we don't have clear regulation. The big players aren't actually in. You walk along the streets and 90% chance person hasn't even heard of a THC beverage. And yet it feels very exciting. And so when those dominoes start to fall and everyone starts to know about it and it is everywhere, like people need to be prepared. Like be prepared to not only 2x next year, but like 4x or 6x. And how is that going to impact your teams and your systems? And like, yeah, this is kind of like, I'm trying to sound the alarm because all I'm getting is positive signaling from the powers that be, both politically and from the big ALC sector, which is the biggest player in this market.
Yeah, we all feel it, right? Because obviously we're all in the space, but I created this YouTube channel in 2023 because I was like, oh my God, people need to know. Like they need to know, they need to be educated, but I want them to know. I want this thing to grow. And it's been within the last year, 2025, that, more people are finding the channel because they're hearing little bits and pieces and uncovering this, for the first time. And I know that we're still in the infancy stage, but what have been some kind of key breakthrough moments that you've kind of really taken notice of within the last year? Some stuff that you're like, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, there's been many. And I'm trying to think like, what can I say that really like nails it home without rambling on for too long? So look, at the beginning of this year, I felt it was imperative that we got in front of the gatekeepers, the distributors, the retailers, to really educate them and teach them. It's like, look, we need to build consumer trust. We need to make sure we have good products on the shelves. These are the questions that you need to be asking. And we set an initiative like, let's build relationships with some distributors. And we met the folks at Southern Crown out of Charleston. Love the Justins. What up, Justins? That was like a really eye-opening moment. It's just like their desire and hunger to learn, the excitement around the category. So we took that momentum, and pretty soon we're meeting with the executives of the biggest distributors that everyone knows in the nation, right? The executives, the owners, like they're all watching this, whether they're saying it or not. And I'm not calling out names specifically, so you have plausible deniability, but they're all watching and they're all going to jump in. And it's going to be when the first major gets in is, again, when the dominoes start to fall.
I was just seeing some news that I just happened to Google THC drink, so I cannot independently confirm this. But WDRB has reported that the University of Louisville, a massive university, has signed with Cornbread Hemp an exclusive deal to sell their drinks. This is a major Division I football, basketball, baseball, you name it, school. The university has not confirmed it, but there are quotes from Cornbread. Now, we saw this with another brand that does not deserve to be mentioned here about an airline. That was not true. So I say this only to ask you, what do you think the real next step is in terms of normalcy? Is it sporting events? Is it major concerts? Or, we already have bars and restaurants. But what is that next step to normalcy?
I mean, huge congratulations to Jim and the Cornbread team. Like that's huge. And I presume we're talking about Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes. Yes.
Why that is super important to me is who's from Louisville or who's from Kentucky. some really important politicians, right? Mitch
One
McConnell,
in particular,
yeah,
yes, Mitch
who
McConnell.
has been speaking out against intoxicating hemp. And thank you, Rand Paul, for stepping up and being the defender of like this category that is burgeoning. I think that's a very positive signal for what we might see happen for this category as we work through September, which is really critical for the appropriations bills that need to go through, the farm bill that is being revisited and probably continued again. But like having those constituents to go to political talk of these decision makers, those are the big signals. That's what everyone's waiting for. Regulatory clarity. When we have regulatory clarity, that's when the institutional brands and investors really start to pour in.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, again, I'd like to say hats off to the Cornbread team as well. I think they've done such a good job of integrating into the political conversation and state legislation. And I would, yeah, I know we can't confirm it, but it feels right to me, just knowing how involved they are, over there.
I mean that's just one example, right? It's like in like the political movement, it's just like these rapid steps that are happening in all these different areas. And there's the political groups, the associations, everyone just pressing on so many sides that we're.
Give me a place, Ben. I'm pressing you here. Is it an airplane? Is it airports? Is it professional stadiums? I don't think we're anywhere close. I think we're like 5% of the population even knows these things exist. That's in my experience.
Look, I think stadiums are big. That's like one big venue, but it's the amalgamation of all the bars and restaurants. That's where discovery happens. When you're looking, I cried when I went to Minnesota last year and went to a restaurant and there was THC beverages on the menu, right in between the spirits and the non-alc. And like, what better discovery mechanism is there than that? It's like, yeah, I'll try that one. Or later walk to the bar and there's a poster of a giggly. I'm sorry if that's not how I pronounce it, but like, it was on the wall in a bar, and I'm like, yeah, I'll have that. Like, I would never have found it otherwise. And this is what we've been fighting for years. Like this movement, we really started in the regulated space, and we always knew it didn't belong in dispensaries, and no one believed it. It was like 1% to 2% of sales when it was in dispensaries, and that's all of beverage. That's the 100 milligrams down to the 5 milligrams. And then all of a sudden you get into the mainstream channels and you're talking about 15 to 20% of alcohol sales. Get out of here, man. That's just nuts.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the on-premise is a big play, but for me, in my mind, I'm waiting for that large format moment where your Walmarts and your Targets jump in and your Krogers, and that's when you blow the roof off. Because to your point, brands are built on premise, but we haven't been able to do that with this category because it's been the slowest space to move. And I think when one of those big, large format retailers jumps in, and obviously, Total Wine within the liquor space has done a phenomenal job given their national footprint. But when a large format grocery store jumps in, and then suddenly you have that section in the store and you can pick it up along with your groceries across the United States, then
Absolutely.
That's when everybody begins to see it. And so for me, that's kind of like a really pivotal moment when one of those huge retailers,
like a Whole Foods or a Stop and Shop, and
Target, Walmart, Kroger.
I know Whole Foods has been eyeing the space. I don't know about Walmart; they're a public company, as is Target. So that could take a while. But I know Target has been eyeing the space as well. How significant was Total Wine in the growth of the industry, Ben?
I mean, that was the first major trigger. I mean, bar none. And they came in hard. They're like, before they launched their first store, or shortly thereafter, I think they pretty much identified, like, we want to take this into 22 states. I remember I was at a Expo West, I think like 2 years ago, sitting on a virtual call with leadership at Total, and they were telling me their plans. And one of those plans was California, which is a whole nother story. But just the aggressiveness and the power of being a private company and the ability to just kind of own it. And I really appreciate them for it. They kind of really gave us a huge amount of momentum and got other retailers to come in. And, there's an interesting dynamic amongst alcohol retailers. So like, yeah, Total Wine is like the 800-pound gorilla. And, not every other retail group loves the 800-pound gorilla. And so it creates this kind of healthy tension where those of us in the middle that are just creating the products really do benefit from that competitiveness. So Lee, you're totally right. I think when these big retailers come online, that's when the volumes get crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
One more from me, and then I know Lee has another one. The categories, it seems like seltzers has been far too saturated, and other categories not enough. What categories do you think will really see growth in the next year or so?
Oh, that's a great question. There's I'm waiting for like really solid non-alc beers that like a lager that is just like tastes like a beer but has a different active ingredient. And Go Brewing out of Chicago has a really beautiful one that I tasted recently. Triple Switch has another one, and there's probably others out there that I'm forgetting. But I
House
think,
in Connecticut. Yeah.
yep, I think it's a really great category. I agree with you. Seltzers is someone's going to win. There's going to be a 0-cal seltzer. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe that's just going to persist in this, like there being 100 of them. The cocktail space is really interesting. Like doing a really tastefully done mocktail. Dave, you mentioned that there isn't infused beverages in Colorado. Our friends at Fable are headquartered in Denver, and they have a beautiful 1 milligram THC beverage with 15 milligrams of CBG. I know you chuckle, but like I ordered it when I was staying at the Clayton. I ordered it at the bar in the middle of the day. I actually ended up having 3, had a nice little buzz going. It was perfectly sessionable and uplifting, and it felt fantastic.
Okay, that's Ben Larson. He's the CEO of Vertosa. If you want to get in this business, contact them, vertosa.com. They don't just provide the ingredient, they will honestly give you advice from the ground all the way up to states and ingredients. And the numbers are bafflingly. They added 22 customers last month, 26 the prior quarter, and 22 the quarter before that, for 70 new businesses in the last 2+ quarters, and a total near 200 that they have started alone or helped launch, if you will.
Yeah, and the fact that he did the same amount of new businesses in July that he essentially did in the first quarter and the same as the fourth quarter in 1 month is wild. And it's also a testament to, the quality product they make, because I'm a Vertosa fan, and but yeah, just wild how quickly people are continuing to jump in when we already thought it was saturated. It's like, we have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly just straight up. So final question is, he said, there will obviously be winners and there will be a lot of losers, and there will be a lot. Do you have any sense of who you think the leader is, or some of the leaders? But most importantly, what are the qualities that will define the winner?
So I think, it's hard to say from an overall standpoint, because there's a lot of really strong regional players. So I don't want to discount some of the brands that are winning on their home turf. I would say nationally, I think nowadays has a really good strategy and business model, because they have multiple different packaging formats. We've talked about cans, shots, 750 milliliter bottles. They have been in event venues. I've seen recently they have point of sale for bars and restaurants. I think also they have a really good word of mouth presence that builds up through social media. They've got sales teams. So I think that they're doing a lot of things right. Ultimately, how you win is you kill it with your marketing and your word of mouth. You have sales reps in the market, and you also have chain placements and are doing activations at a larger scale. And I think just having the brand recognition and consumer facing marketing piece is vital to win this.
Funny you said that, man. Shout out to Justin Tidwell, because I actually was going to say nowadays as well. I think packaging, marketing, the flavors are really good. I think having a spirit, a shot, a seltzer. And if I am Diageo, who I would eye to enter the space in the next year because if alcohol is really in trouble, that's the one I'd buy. I think across the board they're strong. You know, some like Can have raised too much money. I don't think that would be on my radar in particular. I think the marketing will determine the winner. I still think there's time for someone to come in and win this space. There's no real celebrity in it. I mean, I know Houseplant has Seth Rogen, but he's more the stoner celebrity. I think there is a sports leaning celebrity out there that could come in and win this space if they do content right. Because people have pretty Instagram accounts, but no one has really done content right. So I still think it's early enough for a new entrant to win. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And I think it would be really cool to see a female influencer that embodies some of the target demographic to step forward and embrace the category. And if a brand could get locked into someone of that magnitude, and I think that could be a game changer. But yeah, you have to have that visibility, and that comes from the social media play, the word of mouth, the TikTok videos, the quiet conversations that are happening around the pools and the book clubs, as well as the market execution from sales and chain activity. So
you said the magic word there. I think it's TikTok. And I'm glad you brought it up. I think whoever wins TikTok can win here. I can't think of the right female celebrity. I'm going to think about that tonight. I do think Micah Hyde, who is a former NFL All-Pro safety for the Bills, who's coming on this show very soon in the next couple of weeks. That'll be interesting if he can kind of gain all the athletes, former athletes. That could be an interesting play.
Yeah, and there's already one brand off field that's done a really good job kind of owning the kind of athletic space. They're known as the Runners, THC drink. And I think they've done a really good job. And Onward, the new brand, I haven't tried it yet. They are going for kind of a fitness approach in some of the advertising I've seen. So it shows that people can maintain a healthy lifestyle while still having these drinks to unwind and not wreck your weekend or your next, day of work.
Onward's one I want to try. I think that's an energy drink, right? So that's one I need to get some samples of. Well, this was a great show. Thanks again to Ben Larson from Vertosa. Please subscribe to this channel and like this video and share it with your friends, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys have any questions or if we forgot to say anything, put it in the comments below and we'll be sure to respond.
Questions. We will answer all your questions, any of them next week. See you then.